You walked through the front door tonight, and the house greeted you the way it always does, with the kind of silence that is not peaceful but hollow, the kind that echoes back the exact shape of everything you were hoping someone might absorb from you. You set your keys down on the counter and stood there for just a second, not because you forgot where you were going, but because your body needed one moment to acknowledge the weight it had been carrying all day before it had to carry it somewhere else. No one asked, no one noticed, the lights were on, the rooms were occupied, and you were completely, devastatingly alone in the most populated version of your own life. That ache is not in your imagination. It lives in the chest cavity, somewhere just beneath the sternum, in that hollow spot that tightens when you realize that the people who share your last name, your dinner table, your most familiar memories, they have never once asked what is actually happening inside you. They talk around you like furniture. They include you in the photograph, but not in the conversation. And because you are the kind of soul that chooses peace over performance, you learned a long time ago to wear your smile like armor, to modulate your presence just enough so that no one feels uncomfortable, so that the evening proceeds without incident and everyone goes to bed satisfied with a version of togetherness that cost you everything and gave you nothing in return. There is a specific kind of grief that has no funeral. No one brings flowers for the loss of being unseen by the very people who are supposed to know you best. No one marks the anniversary of the day you realized that your family's love, real as it was in its own limited way, would never have the capacity to reach the depth of who you actually are. You mourn alone. You mourn in fragments. You mourn in the shower at midnight, with the water turned up just loud enough to cover the sound of everything your throat has been holding back since Tuesday. That grief is sacred, and it is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you were built for something they were never equipped to hold. That is why in the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, the link is in the pinned comment, I explain that the loneliness you feel inside the most familiar spaces is not a wound without purpose. It is the precise geography of a soul being separated for its next assignment. The pain of being misread by people who are supposed to know you is not random suffering. It is preparation. It is God pulling you out of the noise long enough to hear your own frequency clearly, because what is coming toward you requires that you know exactly who you are before it arrives. The dinner table has always been a theater. You know this. You have sat in that chair, at that exact table, surrounded by those exact faces, and felt the specific vertigo of being fully present and completely invisible at the same time. The conversation moves, the laughter peaks and falls. Someone tells a story you have heard 7 times, and everyone responds like it is new. And you sit there with an ocean churning inside you. Questions about God, about purpose, about why everything feels so loud and so empty simultaneously. And no one passes you anything except the bread. The body learns to perform community while the spirit starves inside it. That is not ingratitude. That is the tension of carrying a calling in a space too small to contain it. Your nervous system remembers every table where it had to make itself smaller. The biology of suppression is not metaphor. It is cortisol flooding your bloodstream when someone dismisses you mid-sentence. It is your jaw tightening when you swallow the thing you actually wanted to say. It is the exhaustion that settles into your bones by 8 in the evening, not because you worked too hard with your body, but because you worked impossibly hard with your soul, managing the gap between who you are and who they are comfortable with you being. That kind of tired does not respond to sleep. It responds to truth. It responds to finally being in a room where you do not have to manage anyone's comfort at the expense of your own. And in those midnight moments, standing under the hot water with your forehead pressed against the cold tile and your chest doing that thing where it collapses inward from the effort of containing everything, in those moments, God was not absent. He was closer than breath. He was watching the way a goldsmith watches fire, not to enjoy the burning, but to know the exact moment when what is being forged has reached its purest form. The tears you swallowed were not wasted. The silent cries that dissolved before they were ever witnessed by human eyes were witnessed by the only set of eyes that matter, the ones that were knitting purpose into your bones, even while everything on the surface looked like loss. There is a lineage to your solitude. Look back through your family tree, and you will find it, the pattern of people who silenced themselves to survive, who traded authenticity for acceptance, who learned that love was a performance and approval was currency. You did not invent this ache. You inherited it. But you are also the one in this bloodline who looked at the inheritance and said, no, not again, not this generation. That single act of refusal, quiet as it was, invisible as it was, made in the privacy of your own soul at 3 a.m, was one of the most revolutionary things your family line has ever produced. You broke a chain without a ceremony, without an audience, without anyone handing you a medal for the courage it took to want something your family had no blueprint for. The spirit that is making itself known to you now, the one that has been moving in the peripheral edges of your awareness, the sense that something is shifting, that a connection unlike anything you have previously experienced is approaching, it picked up the frequency of that refusal. Love that is genuinely aligned does not find you when you are performing your best self for an audience. It finds you at the precise intersection of your deepest honesty and your highest willingness. It finds you when you have finally stopped trying to become acceptable and started becoming actual. And you, in ways you have not yet fully credited yourself for, have been doing exactly that kind of becoming. What is coming toward you did not grow up in comfort. Do not make that assumption. The soul moving in your direction has known its own version of the hollow room, the table where they sat and felt the acute wrongness of belonging nowhere that was supposed to be home. They have been offered connections that glittered on the surface and rang hollow underneath, and they refused them, not because they were arrogant, but because something ancient inside them knew the difference between gold and gilded brass. They are younger in years and carry that youth with grace, but their spirit has been seasoned by a quality of storm that most people their age have not encountered. They did not arrive at you accidentally. They arrived at you because God gave them eyes calibrated specifically for your kind of light. Here is something no one is brave enough to say aloud in the circles you move in. Your light has always been the problem, not your flaws, your light. The way your presence exposes unresolved things in others without you ever meaning to. The way your depth makes shallow conversations feel suddenly intolerable to the people having them. The way your stillness in a crisis reads as a threat to people who have organized their entire identities around the performance of anxiety. You did not do anything wrong. You never did anything wrong. You simply existed at a frequency that certain souls were not equipped to handle. And rather than take responsibility for their own discomfort, they handed the bill to you. They called it being too sensitive, too intense, too much. Those were not assessments. Those were confessions. Confessions of their own inability to rise to the level of presence you were offering them. This is the architecture of the black sheep. Not a sheep that wandered off in confusion, but a light bearer that every unhealed thing in the room could not stop reacting to. Joseph did not ask to dream. He did not craft his visions as provocations against his brothers. He simply had the audacity to carry a divine signal in a space where everyone else was operating on a lower frequency, and the contrast alone was enough to make them want to extinguish him. David did not perform his anointing at the family gathering. Samuel saw what the family had trained themselves not to see, because the family had long decided which vessel was worthy and which was expendable. Jesus did not perform miracles in his hometown and receive honor. The people who knew him from childhood, who watched him grow, were precisely the ones most offended by what he became. Familiarity is the enemy of revelation. The people closest to you have the hardest time seeing you clearly because they are too invested in who they decided you were. The criticism came dressed as concern. That is always how it works. I am just worried about you. I am only saying this because I love you. You have always been too sensitive for your own good. The words were delivered with a tone of authority and a posture of care, but underneath them was the architecture of control, the need to keep you within a range that did not disturb their own unexamined life. Every time you grew, they repackaged their fear as advice. Every time you expanded, they reframed your expansion as recklessness. They were not lying exactly. They genuinely believed what they were saying. But belief and truth are not the same thing, and the belief that you needed to be managed was always more about their anxiety than your actual state. The envy was real, even when it was invisible. The people who criticized your choices most vocally were often the ones most quietly aware of the distance between the life they were living and the life they had once hoped for. Your willingness to feel deeply, to ask the questions that did not have safe answers, to refuse the comfortable numbness that most people accept as peace. That willingness was a mirror, and not everyone could stand what they saw reflected back. It was easier to call you naive, idealistic, reckless, than to admit that what you were actually doing was the thing they had given up on years ago. You were not a problem to be solved. You were a standard they had stopped holding themselves to. As I teach deeply in the material, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, I left the link for you in the pinned comment. This pain is not a malfunction in the story of your life. It is the exact pressure that produces the specific depth of character God needed you to carry into the season that is opening now. The rejection was not the end of your story. It was the furnace. And what comes out of a furnace is not what went in. What comes out is purified. What comes out is indestructible. What comes out is ready. The connection moving towards you, younger in age, ancient in soul, is not going to flinch at your history. The very storms that made certain people back away from you are the exact things this soul will recognize as beauty. Not because they are naive about pain, they are not, but because they have sat in their own version of the dark, and they know what it looks like when someone has not just survived the dark, but found God inside it. They are not looking for someone who has never been wounded. They are looking for someone who knows what wounds are for. And you, whether you have fully accepted this about yourself or not, carry that knowledge in every layer of who you are. You will not have to perform for this person. That is perhaps the thing that will surprise you most. The complete absence of the familiar exhaustion that comes from managing someone else's need for a particular version of you. You will speak, and they will actually listen. Not to formulate a response, not to find the moment where they can redirect the conversation back to themselves, but to understand. You will say something you have never said aloud before, and instead of the silence that usually follows that kind of vulnerability, the silence that feels like falling, you will experience the other thing. The steadiness, the recognition, the feeling of being caught mid-fall by hands that were already in position. There will be voices. There are always voices. The world has constructed very specific scaffolding around who is allowed to love whom. And when the structure of what God is building in your life does not conform to that scaffolding, the voices will have opinions. Your family will have concerns dressed as love. Your social circle will have observations dressed as wisdom. Strangers on the internet will have verdicts delivered without ever having touched the texture of your actual life. And you, who spent years shaping yourself around the approval of audiences that were never truly for you, will feel the old pull, the impulse to justify, to explain, to shrink the miracle down to a size that makes other people comfortable enough to bless it. Lot's wife knew she was leaving. She chose to leave. She moved her feet in the direction of the new thing, and her body began the journey that her soul had not yet fully committed to. And then she looked back. Not because she did not know better, but because the old fire, even when it is destroying you, carries the specific warmth of familiarity, and familiarity will always feel like safety to the part of you that was shaped by survival. She did not look back out of stupidity. She looked back out of grief for a version of herself that no longer had a home in the direction she was walking. And the turning back cost her everything, not as punishment, as consequence, because you cannot walk into the new territory carrying the posture of the old one. The approval you spent years seeking from people who are never going to fully give it to you, that chapter is closing, not because those people are evil, but because God is writing a paragraph in your life that requires you to be freed from the need for their signature. Every relationship that dissolved, every connection that could not survive you becoming more authentically yourself, every space that became too small once your spirit started expanding into its actual size. Those endings were not failures. They were architecture. They were God removing from the path the things that would have pulled you back into a smaller version of yourself the moment things got uncomfortable. The removal felt like loss. Of course it did. Loss always feels like loss in the moment before you understand what was actually happening. The friendship that faded, you mourned it. The family dynamic that shifted when you started speaking truth, you mourned it. The version of yourself that could have stayed comfortable and small and quietly miserable in a life that looked fine from the outside, you mourned that person too, because she required so much less courage than who you are becoming. Grief is not the opposite of growth, it is the price of it, and you have paid it in full. What God was protecting you from in those removals was not just discomfort, it was dilution. It was the gradual erosion of your calling by constant proximity to people who could not see it and therefore could not honor it. Destiny has enemies that wear the faces of people you love, not because they intend harm, most of them do not, but because comfort conspires against calling, and the people most invested in keeping you comfortable are often the people most unconsciously committed to keeping you from the fire that would transform you. God's love for you is not comfortable. It is purposeful, and purposeful love sometimes looks like removal. The solitude that has characterized this season is not abandonment. Sit with that, let it move all the way through you. The silence, the months where the connections felt thin and the prayers felt unanswered and the path felt empty in every direction. That was not God forgetting your address. That was God clearing the frequency. When a musician is tuning an instrument, they do not do it in the middle of the performance. They do it in the quiet. They do it in the space before. And the tuning you have undergone in this season of sacred solitude has been preparing you for a harmony that could not have found you when the noise was still this loud. Your prayer has not dissolved into the ceiling, not one syllable of it. Every 2 a.m. journal entry written by the light of your phone, every conversation with God held in the parking lot before you could summon the energy to walk inside, every desperate specific request spoken into the dark, they are held, they are known. They are the precise inventory of what God has been building toward in your life. The love you asked for, the kind that sees you without a filter, that holds your complexity without complaint, that has been shaped by its own storms and therefore does not flinch at yours. It is in motion. It has always been in motion. You were simply not able to see it from inside the season you were in. The new tribe does not look like what you were given at birth. This is something you will have to make peace with. The realization that chosen family is not a consolation for broken biology. It is the upgrade. The connections that are assembling themselves on the road ahead of you carry a quality of resonance that blood alone cannot manufacture. They have been shaped, like you, by the specific loneliness of carrying something that their original environment could not hold. They know what it costs to be different. They know the particular silence of a room full of people who cannot hear you. and they chose, as you chose, to keep looking for the real thing rather than settle for the convenient imitation. The young soul walking toward you is part of this tribe, but not only this soul. Around this central connection, an entire ecosystem of alignment is assembling. People who will finally ask the questions that reach down to where you actually live. Collaborators who will amplify rather than diminish the frequency you carry. Spaces where your presence is not managed, but celebrated. This is not fantasy. This is the harvest of every seed of integrity you planted in seasons when the ground looked too hard to receive anything. The earth kept it. The earth always keeps it. And what is pushing through the surface now is exactly proportional to the depth of what you gave. You are arriving at yourself. This is the most accurate description of what this season actually is. Not a waiting room for something external, but the final approach of someone who has been on the long journey back to their own truest nature. Every false identity you shed in the dark, every performance you finally set down, every version of yourself that you maintained for the comfort of others and then quietly buried. That was the work. That was the becoming. And the love that is approaching you is not the reward for completing that work. It is the recognition of it. It is the mirror finally built with the right materials to reflect back what you actually are. Do not mistake the calm for distance. The peace you feel in this season, strange and unfamiliar as it may be, given how long you lived inside the adrenaline of survival, is not emptiness. It is spaciousness. It is what it feels like when the constant work of holding yourself together is finally replaced by something that holds you. You have earned the right to receive. You have spent long enough giving from the overflow of a self that was secretly hemorrhaging. This is the season where the hands unclench. This is the season where the walls that protected you are no longer required for survival and can finally carefully begin to come down. The one who is coming does not need you at full capacity before they can love you. That is perhaps the most revolutionary thing I want you to hear today. This love does not arrive with a prerequisite. You do not need to be further along in your healing, more certain in your direction, more resolved in your theology, thinner, quieter, louder, or any other version of more before you are worthy of receiving what God has written for you. You are worthy in the middle of the becoming. You are worthy in the incomplete and the uncertain and the still grieving. The love that is coming was specifically calibrated for the real you, not the finished, polished presentation version, but the actual breathing human who is still finding her footing on ground that has only recently stopped shaking. You are not too late. That voice that tells you the window has closed, that the best version of this was available a decade ago and you simply missed it, that is not wisdom. That is the old wound speaking in the vocabulary of time. God does not operate inside the calendar that anxiety constructed for you. The story He is writing for your life was never on the schedule your fear insisted it should be. What has felt like lateness is actually preparation. What has felt like absence is actually precision. What has felt like being passed over is actually being set apart. And what is arriving now, in this specific season, at this specific frequency, through this specific and unlikely and holy and absolutely intentional connection, is not what remained after the real thing happened elsewhere. It is the real thing, finally here, exactly on time. Your new chapter does not open with an apology. It does not open with you explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand anyway. It opens with a breath, the long, slow exhale of someone who has finally, after all of this, arrived somewhere that feels like home in another person. It opens with a question asked by someone who genuinely wants to know the answer. It opens with the particular silence between two people that is not awkward but full of the specific kind of recognition that does not require words to be real. This is what you asked for. This is what was written for you. This is not the beginning of a love story the way the world defines love stories. It is the beginning of a covenant between two souls shaped by different fires, who found in each other not a rescue, but a completion. Here is what I need you to do now. Not tomorrow, not after you have processed all of this, not once you feel ready, because the waiting until ready season is over. Now, I need you to take the specific content of what I have shared with you today and let it do what it was sent to do, not just move through your emotions, but restructure your expectation. You were built for this. The connection, the alignment, the sacred, improbable, age-transcending, soul-level partnership that heaven has been assembling on your behalf, it requires one thing from you that no one else can provide: your willingness to receive it. Not to chase it, not to convince anyone of its legitimacy, simply to open, to show up in the fullness of who you have become, to let what is already written find you standing in the truth of your own life, arms open, fear quieting, walls descending, heart finally ready. If you study the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, which link is in the pinned comment, you will see that every principle I have laid out in this message is not just spiritual encouragement. It is a map, a detailed, practical, soul-level map for navigating exactly this kind of season. The link is waiting for you. Your next chapter is waiting for you. And the one walking toward you, younger in years, ancient in spirit, shaped for exactly your frequency, they are already on their way. And here is the thing about open hands. They are terrifying at first. You have spent so long in the posture of self-protection that openness feels indistinguishable from vulnerability, and vulnerability has historically meant getting hurt. Your nervous system remembers every time you extended yourself fully and came back with less than you gave. It catalogued every disappointment with clinical precision, building an internal case for why closing was safer than opening, why managing was wiser than trusting, why the controlled version of connection, the one where you never fully let anyone see the deepest room, was simply the intelligent adaptation of someone who had learned from experience. That system served you. Acknowledge it. It kept you functional through seasons that would have shattered someone without your particular combination of faith and stubbornness. But a defense mechanism built for a war that is ending will eventually become the thing that keeps the peace out. The walls are coming down, not all at once. God is not asking you for a demolition. He is asking you for a daily willingness, one brick, then another. Not because the world has suddenly become safe enough to justify total exposure, but because the person approaching you was specifically built to be trusted with what is behind those walls. There is a difference between universal openness and sacred discernment, and this season is teaching you to know the difference in your body before your mind can articulate it. The soul that is moving toward you will not feel like a risk the way the others did. It will feel like recognition. It will feel like the very specific relief of someone who has been holding their breath for so long that they forgot they were doing it. And then the air finally comes. That feeling is not naivety. That feeling is confirmation. Learn to trust it. The wisdom you carry is not common. Let that land. You have walked through valleys that most people in your immediate world have only theorized about, and you came back from those valleys not empty, but full. Full of a particular kind of knowing that cannot be downloaded from a podcast or extracted from a book. It lives in your body. It lives in the way you hold space for someone else's panic without being consumed by it. It lives in the steadiness you project when everything around you is uncertain. The stillness that other people keep mistaking for coldness, when it is actually the hard-won peace of someone who has learned that God does not lose. That wisdom is not just yours to keep, it is yours to give, and the one walking toward you is going to need exactly what you have accumulated through every season you wanted to skip. Here is the sacred mathematics of this union. You will give them what time gave you, perspective, steadiness, the long view, the ability to see a storm from the altitude of someone who has already stood in several and survived. And they will give you something equally irreplaceable, the quality of wonder that has not yet been weathered out of them, the specific courage of someone who has not yet learned to be afraid of the things that stopped you in your earlier years, the freshness of a spirit that still approaches God with the particular audacity of someone who has not yet accumulated the theological cynicism that long suffering can sometimes produce. You will teach each other, not in the hierarchical sense where one pours and one receives, but in the circular, living sense where each presence calls something new out of the other that neither could have accessed alone. That is not a lesser love. That is a complete one. The age difference that the world will want to make the headline of your story is actually the least interesting thing about what God is doing here. It is the detail that will distract the observers who were never equipped to understand the assignment anyway. Let them make it their conversation. Let them construct their narratives and deliver their verdicts from the comfortable distance of people who have never had to trust God past the point where their social circle approved. Their commentary is not your curriculum. You graduated from the need for that particular classroom in the season you are just now leaving, and going back to sit in it, even briefly, even just to defend yourself, even just to explain, would be a form of looking back that costs you more than you are willing to pay at this stage of the journey. Your love does not require a defense. It requires your presence. What you owe the world is not an explanation. What you owe yourself is arrival. The full, unreserved, non-apologetic arrival into the life that was written for you, including this love, including this connection, including every unconventional, beautiful, particular detail of the future that God assembled specifically around the shape of your soul. You did not end up here by accident. Every detour, every delay, every door that closed before you could walk through it, every relationship that looked like the answer and turned out to be the lesson, all of it was directional. All of it was moving you toward this exact coordinate. And now that you are here, standing at the threshold of something your whole life has been building toward, the only question that remains is whether you will honor the journey by walking through the door. The fear will try to come with you. That is normal. Fear is persistent, and it is creative, and it will find new costumes for every new season. In this season, it might dress itself as practicality, the voice that lists all the logical reasons why this does not make sense, why the timing is wrong, why the opinions of others should carry more weight than the conviction in your spirit. Or it might dress itself as unworthiness, the voice that quietly suggests that this kind of love was designed for someone who has not made your particular set of mistakes, someone less complicated, someone with a CE.